This is the final episode of this series about me hiking along and around Kungsleden in 2023. You will see days 6, 7 and 8 of the trip, and I do not have as many pictures and videos from there as before. I guess I was quite tired, but at the same time, those 3 days contain the highest high and the lowest low of the whole trip. I hope you will be interested in it. And the story actually starts with the lowest low. On day 6, I got up around 4, I left the hut around 6 before the sunrise, and at first the weather was not too bad. It was raining a bit, it was windy a bit, but the worst of it began about half an hour after I left the hut. And that's why I do not have any pictures or videos from the next 4, I think, hours. On that day, I woke up early because I wanted to do a double distance. I had to go from Nallo to Selka and from Selka to Singi, which is about 22 kilometers. But since I don't have any pictures from the first 4-ish hours when I was hiking to Selka, I asked AI to show you what it looked like. And I tried to explain AI as much as I could. The wind was extremely horrible. I really had to push against it all the way, and I was moving so slowly just because it was hard. But just the wind is fine. The problem was that it was raining a lot. The temperature was a couple degrees above 0, so it was pretty cold. And the wind hit my face really badly because it was a headwind. And I was wet up to my hips as the wind was trying to lift up my raincoat all the time. It was all boulder fields, but the rain turned them into kind of puddles. So I was constantly ankle deep in water, icy water. At some point I just stopped feeling my feet, and I really couldn't feel my hands also, as they were just wet and frozen with the water. You know, at some point I slipped, I fell, I hit my knee, and I was so tired and upset that I just started crying. And I was sitting there for, I don't know, a minute until I accepted the fact that I have to get up and continue going. Yeah, I don't want to be more dramatic than this. After about 4 or 5 hours, I don't remember properly, I finally got out of the valley, which was leading me to Selka. And at that point, the weather becomes so much nicer, and I finally was able to see the mountains around me. And at some point, I was able to see the cabin. There are 2 options of staying in STF cabins. You can pay an overnight fee and sleep there for the night, or you can pay a day fee and stay in the hut for up to 2 hours during lunchtime. And then you can use the kitchen, you can cook yourself lunch, etc. I'd never done that before this moment, but the morning was so horrible, and the idea of that warm hut and sitting inside and drying up a little bit really cheered me up along the way. So that was what I decided to do. I went to the hut, I paid a daily fee, and that was just amazing. I tried to squeeze water out of my socks. I tried to put my shoes to dry for a little bit. I stayed there for about half an hour, I think, and I boiled myself some water for the tea. I ate my energy bars, and it cheered me up so much that I think by the end of this short sitting inside the hut, I was quite happy with myself. This bit of the trail is really beautiful, especially if you look back at the hut. That's why it again slowed me down considerably. I had to stop a lot, look back at the hut, enjoy it, take pictures. The weather was now amazing. It was raining a little bit from time to time, but mostly it was just dramatic with all those clouds and sun and rainbows which I could see because of the rain. And I was just enjoying myself because the main Kungsleden trail is pretty flat, which is quite different to what I had in the 3 previous days. There were no rocks, no slippery bits, no streams to cross. I could just enjoy walking on flat surface and looking around. There was an annoying part to it, however, and that was that for this half day I joined the most popular part of Kungsleden trail between Abisko and Nallo Hut, and that meant that there were quite a lot of people. Well, when I say a lot, it's still not that many. I saw maybe 10, maybe 15 people, something like that. But still, it ruined the atmosphere of being a brave adventurer alone in the wild. That's why it's not my favorite part, joining the popular trails. And especially after the 3 previous days, when I met maybe 5-10 people in all of those 3 days. But well, what can you do? At least the trail is extremely beautiful. And I was just walking, listening to my audiobook, eating my energy bars, and looking at the rainbows. As you can see, the trail is as well maintained as Swedish tourist organization can afford it. There are wooden planks across the rocky bit and across the wet bits. There are cool bridges across the most wild streams. It's a very comfortable trail to walk. And you remember I said in this part of the video I had the highest high of my whole trip. Well, this one is not the highest high, but I would say the 3rd highest high of the whole trip, because it's just beautiful and very nice to walk and yeah, just amazing. What can I say? And there was something I was really looking forward to hiking there, and that is an emergency hut halfway between Selka and Singi. It's just so nice, as I mentioned before, to sit down for 10 minutes inside a tiny cabin when it rains outside and have an energy bar. And since I've been on this trail before, I knew this cabin and I knew when it was coming, and I was just looking forward to getting there as soon as possible. The rain was coming, and it made the light look magnificent. Look at the pictures. They are so moody and dramatic, and that's all because of the rain. And especially when I get to the stream, which was just before the cabin, there was this amazing rainbow above the stream, and I think I took one of my best pictures at this spot. Look, I have no words to describe it. And then finally I reached the cabin, which was so nice when it started to rain. And there was a French couple inside. They were just setting up a tent by the cabin, which is what people sometimes do, because then you can store your stuff inside the cabin, but sleep in a tent. And we had a little chat. It was really nice. And I had my energy bar. And then I was finally ready and charged up to continue my journey. It was still about 5 kilometers to go to Singi, but I was so exhausted, especially after the morning that I've had. You know, when you get really cold, it kind of drains your energy. So by the afternoon, I was really tired. And that's why I don't have that many pictures. I was just trying to get to the cabin as soon as possible. And luckily, eventually I did. As always, next morning I woke up really early and I left before sunrise. And honestly, that was one of the best mornings I've ever had in my hiking days. First, I met reindeers, and they are my favorite animals. I was so happy to finally see them. And I followed them for a little bit. First they were really close to me, but then they started moving away. And finally I saw them in a very beautiful light, just as the sun was rising. It was amazing. But you know, it did not just end at that. because then the morning was getting more and more beautiful. That's why I have a lot of pictures and videos, and the wind was quite low, so I was able to film it with my drone quite a lot. That is one of the reasons why I like waking up early. Well, in general, I hate waking up early. I'm a night owl. But when I do hiking, I usually get up early enough to be able to leave before sunrise. And then I just walk and see the sun rising above the mountains. And especially in the fall, when the colors are amazing, it looks absolutely beautiful. Another thing I like about it is that other people do not like waking up early. So when I leave the cabin around 6 in the morning, I kind of know that I won't see anyone for at least 3-4 hours. And that's very nice. I have this whole amazing, beautiful world to myself. Look at these videos. It's just... wow. My plan for the day was again to do a double distance. I was planning to skip one hut, Kaitumjauri, in the middle, and then stay overnight at Teusjauri hut, which would make it about 22 kilometers, I think. I was moving slowly, especially in the morning, because I was, as you know, kept taking pictures, filming my videos. But I knew from the host of the previous hut that it will be raining in the afternoon. So I didn't have to hurry up too much. I knew that when it rains, I couldn't take too many pictures. So I will be extremely quick in the afternoon. I was walking, listening to my audiobook, eating energy bars from time to time, stopping to make some time lapses, and I really haven't seen that many people. I think overall, today, I saw maybe 5 people, and the reason is that this bit of Kungsleden, from Singi to Vakkotavare, is, I think, one of the least popular ones. Because what you usually do, you usually add it to another hike. Like I did in this case. I hiked from Abisko and then I decided to end up not in Nallo Hut, as people usually would, but go all the way to Vakkotavare. And usually people do Kungsleden in bits, for example, Abisko to Nallo Hut, Saltoluokto to Kvikjok, Hemavan to Emmernas, but this little tiny bit from Singi to Vakkotavare is not as well known, so I didn't expect as many people. And I didn't see that many people. That was very nice. As you can see from my pictures, the weather constantly changes. It's sunlight one moment, and then 10 minutes later, it's clouds and rain a little bit. What can you do? But here, I met reindeers again. And I saw 2 who were enjoying a little bit of fighting. And here I finally saw some people, but then magic happened. You know, I usually call it lucky when I get a bit of sunshine, when it doesn't rain the whole day, when I get at least a couple of hours of sunshine during the day, during my hikes. But the luckiest time is when you get this specific combination of sunlight and clouds, and you get that magical shadow that just flies around the mountain. And I'm especially lucky when there is no wind, so I can film this with my drone. And that's what happened on that day. And that is the second highest point of these last 3 days. Just look at these videos. It's so difficult for me to pick the best ones because I've filmed so many and all of them are just amazing. I keep using this word, amazing, but you know, it's just perfect. And so I kept stopping to fly the drone, and I try to sometimes use those stops to get some tea and energy bars, because to be fair, I was extremely exhausted. It was already day 7 of my hike, and I was hiking a lot each of those 7 days. So I would say by the middle of this day, I started getting quite tired with everything and kind of looking forward to, as usual, getting to the next hut to have my lunch. As expected, I saw only few people that day, so I felt like a true adventurer alone in the wild. And I was extremely pleased that at least for half of the day I can have my feet dry, because I left my shoes close to the stove overnight and they got reasonably dry. And they will of course get wet in the afternoon when it starts raining, but for now it was very pleasant to stroll in the sun in dry shoes without a raincoat and without too much wind. The water in the rivers were quite interesting this time. Usually it's blue because it's glacier water, but this time it was kind of whitish. I guess for exactly the same reason why the water was so high in the streams when I had to cross them. I was quite surprised by how different the rivers looked. You know, when you hike for a long time and you are tired, you start getting excited about strangest things. Like you're looking forward to getting to a bridge and you look forward to getting to a little hut. But this bridge was extremely beautiful, and I was lucky enough to still have no rain and quite low winds, so I was able to film it. And there was a gentleman just crossing the river perfectly for the picture. And then he stopped and he asked me if I could send him the footage afterwards. And I left him my email so that he could email me and I would send him the footage. You know, from this point, I don't really have any pictures from my good large camera, because I was so tired and I just couldn't be bothered. I was so much looking forward to the hut. And then there was the hut. Even though the location of this hut is not one of the most beautiful ones, it's so lovely inside. I think because of the view. You can see those blue mountains and yellow leaves, and it just looks amazing. And this whole hut, I think it's quite new. It looks very cozy. And I sat down for 15 minutes, I paid the daily fee, and I got my lunch, consisting of tea and energy bars. And then I was again on my way further. And since I don't have any pictures from my large, nice camera, you only get, I'm sorry about it, the lower quality pictures from my phone. It was raining a lot at this point, and I was really tired, just annoyed by the rain, and I was hurrying up. And when that happens, I usually get from one point to another quite quickly. So just within a couple of hours, I made the last 10-ish kilometers to Nallo Hut, and then I was able to hide from the rain and also get a sauna and my little dinner. The first thing next morning was to cross a lake, and you have two options. You can either row or you can pay for a motorboat, which is obviously what I did. It was quite sad because it was the last day of my hiking trip, and it was quite short. I really had to hurry up that morning because I had to cover 16 kilometers, but I had to make it before the bus. And the bus was leaving from the final point of my trip around 2 in the afternoon. I was kind of lucky because it was raining a lot, so I couldn't stop too much to take pictures and enjoy the views, even though some views were really nice. But I was so worried about not making it to the bus that I was almost running and just eating some energy bars along the way. And I was in such a hurry that I actually got to the hut, which was at the end of my trip, almost 2 hours before the bus. And then I just paid a day fee and I was allowed to sit in the hut and enjoy myself a little bit. I hanged my raincoat to dry, I made the fire in the stove, I boiled myself some water for the tea, and it was really nice. Although I was still a little bit sad about it being the end of my trip. But it wasn't the very end of my trip. I decided to treat myself, and instead of taking the bus to the next town with a train station, I decided to spend the night in the mountain lodge, just 20 minutes away from the final point of my trip, because I really wanted to just get back to civilization, to have a nice warm shower, and here is the highest point of these 3 days. I wanted to have some nice food, and I ordered myself a pizza. It is so nice, after 8 days of eating energy bars and ready-made meals, to finally have something real. The area around the lodge is gorgeous. That's why first I went for a little walk in the evening, and then I woke up really early in the morning to first go for a little stroll along the road to film with my drone a little bit. And as you can see, it's a really amazing place with some beautiful mountains and forests around it. After the walk, I returned back to the lodge and had my favorite breakfast, which is my favorite thing about civilization on a holiday. I really love to have a hotel breakfast. And after that, I had some more time to walk around, because my bus, the same as the bus from yesterday, was leaving in the afternoon, so I had time to enjoy the area, even though it was raining quite a lot. And then I took the bus to Gällivare, and spending some time there, I finally took the train back to Stockholm. Well, and that concludes this part of hiking along and around Kungsleden. Hopefully soon you will get the part from this year, 2024, when my drone footage is finally approved for being published. Well, before then, I will show you some other adventures. So, if you would like to follow my adventures, please subscribe, please give me a thumbs up, and hopefully see you soon.